So as we all know, Anthony Smith arrested with 3 felony charges: terrorist threats, domestic violence, and false imprisonment. And in my opinion, this exposes a huge problem within the UFC. A serious problem. Now, we all know that a lot of UFC fighters, former fighters, right, they do commit crimes. All right, they do go off the rails a little bit. And I think this exposes a problem within the UFC itself, like the actual company, like the company's practices. And we're going to break it down today. Just 2 things before I start, right? Wyatt from Fight Society uploaded this a couple hours ago, 1 hour ago as of recording. Exclusive. He did a lot of research. I don't want to take this away from him by just reacting to his video. So go and check it out. Dispatch audio, exposed and revealed. It is crazy. It's a lot worse than what we all initially thought, okay? I mean, we all knew that it was bad, but like this just exposed it even more. So shout out to Wyatt for doing some big research into this. And also, I was calling Anthony Smith a terrorist because he got arrested with terrorist threats. I thought it was just a funny joke to call him a terrorist. I thought the thought of Anthony Smith plotting a terrorist plot with Ali Abdelaziz, to me, was just a funny joke. I know he's not a terrorist, guys. It was a joke. Calm down. We're going to break down today the plethora of UFC fighters, right, that have these issues and why the UFC are partly to blame for it. Now, a lot of these things, it is just people making really bad choices, and there is no defending that. There is no defending it. I'm not going to just put all the blame on the UFC, but there is things that they can do, put in place to really help these guys. All right, so we're just gonna run through some. Conor McGregor, obviously, massive criminal, terrible person. All right, he just is a terrible person. That's objectively true. Multiple crimes, assault, fucking driving convictions. All right, alleged SA, alleged, hasn't been charged with that. All right, but assaulting people, throwing the dolly at the bus with Khabib, injuring 3 other fighters, impulse control. It's not great with these guys. It really isn't great. Multiple run-ins with the law, multiple controversies, drink-fueled benders. All right, this guy has a serious problem. And I think it's got a lot to do with shots to the head, CTE. John Jones, the same thing with John Jones. How many crimes does this guy have to commit? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these things are like, Bromo, you can't just blame the UFC and you can't just blame CTE. I get it, but we can't act like CTE just doesn't play a factor in these things. Like John Jones, all right, beating up on a stripper, beating his wife, multiple hit and runs, all right, multiple run-ins with the law. He's gay. Need I say more? Need I say more, guys? This guy's a criminal. He has more mugshots than Khabib does title defenses. That's crazy to me. You know how crazy that is? How crazy of a stat that is? The GOAT of lightweight has less title defenses than John Jones has mugshots. That's wild. That's a wild stat, in my opinion. And look, Tim Means. I didn't see a lot of people talk about this when it happened, right? But UFC welterweight Tim Means is facing child abuse charge after allegedly headbutting and punching his daughter. It's insane. Long-time UFC welterweight Tim Means has been arrested on child abuse charge in his home in the state of New Mexico. Means he's alleged to have attacked his 17-year-old daughter during an argument over household chores. Like, what the fuck, dude? After Means and his daughter began arguing about the chores, Means headbutted the 17-year-old. According to the child, Means continued to argue with her before choking her, throwing a potato at her, and punching her in the face. Insane. Let it be known that there were visible hand and red marks on the teen's cheek, indicating she was strangled. The complaint states, according to the Albuquerque Journal's reporting, there was blood on her nose, and she was headbutted several red marks indicate she was hit in the face and on her cheek. What is it with UFC fighters and just abusing their family members? Oh, like, what is it? Like this sort of impulsive, like, anger problems. And we can look at these symptoms of CTE. It is like it's hard to just put all the blame on CTE and just try and like. I'm not trying to like take the blame away from the fighters. It is their fault, right? But we can't act like CTE and damage to the brain doesn't play a big factor in this. And I think a big part of it, and I'll save what I think the UFC can do later on in towards the end. But I just want to break down all these fighters that have had these similar problems. Jamal Hill, all right, sucker punched his brother, all right. Police report alleges Jamal Hill sucker punched brother knocked out tooth in dispute, all right. Jamal Hill was arrested. Hill was charged with domestic assault for allegedly striking his brother. According to the report, UFC fighter and his brother made an agreement for James and his wife to clean Jamal's house for $300, which had been left vacant and without electricity, causing food to rot and spoil. The argument began around 7 p.m. local time about the house being clean and other family matters before. According to the alleged victim, Hill took his shirt off and got in his face before allegedly punched his brother in the face, knocking him to the ground. The report states that according to James, when he stood back up, his wife tried to stand between the two before Jamal reached around James's wife, and punched James in the face, once again causing him to fall and become dazed. So Jamal Hill is going around the guy's wife to punch him in the face over some spoilt food. Like, Jamal, you've got enough money, bro, to go buy some more food, alright, and turn the electricity on. It's probably just like a mistake. Probably an innocent mistake. But this is what I mean. The CTE-ridden fighters they have no impulse control. No impulse control whatsoever. It's a common problem. Casey Kenny. Ex-UFC fighter Casey Kenny. 6 months for domestic violence, alright? Per court reports obtained by MMA Fighting, the 34-year-old made a plea deal with prosecutors for aggravated assault charge, a Class 6 felony for domestic violence, as he was initially hit with a multitude of charges, including kidnapping, disorderly conduct, and several assault charges. What is with these guys? One of the conditions of the plea deal, Kenny was sent to 6 months in county jail, and he also has to stay on probation for the next 3 years, and he must also complete a substance abuse program and a domestic violence offender treatment program. It's just insane. It's crazy. Like even like these like lesser known fighters, bro, they're just like committing all these fucking crazy shit. And Greg Hardy, another one, arrested in North Texas, charged with assault causing bodily injury of a family member. Why are they always attacking the family? Why are they Anthony Smith maxing? Why are they, you're attacking my family. You're attacking my family. According to the arrest, Hardy's girlfriend, Miranda Thorpe, called 911 saying she was fighting with Hardy and he assaulted her, leaving marks on her. She also said he took her to her vehicle. According to Thorpe, the argument started when they were coming back from a park and were in the car with their children. Hardy asked Thorpe what was bothering her, and Thorpe said they would talk at home because she didn't want to fight in front of the kids. After the children were put to bed, Thorpe told Hardy she saw messages on his phone and she believed she was cheating on her whilst he'd been out of town. While confronted, Hardy told Thorpe, "Get out of her face." According to the affidavit, I can't read for shit. Thorpe told the police that Hardy pushed her down, got on top of her, and held her hands below her. Or held her down with his hands on her throat. And he's got a lot of history of abuse, alright. In 2014, he was convicted of choking and threatening to kill his ex-girlfriend. Photos of his bruised ex-girlfriend was leaked, which Hardy said on social media. They had to express his regret for what happened in the past. So he's done it before. Or these CTE-ridden guys, bro. Cedric Dumas. How many times has this guy been fucking arrested? Cedric Dumas. Jaden Cable's best friend. Jaden Cable's buddy. Let's get Cedric Dumas on the channel, guys. This absolute piece of shit. Let's get him on the channel, alright? Because I'm a fucking industry plant that just wants fucking, I don't know. But that's a whole nother rant. But anyway. He got cut Dumas completed in the UFC 3 times over the past year following his arrest in April 2025 on a multitude of charges, including home invasion, battery, and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. What the fuck, bro? It's ridiculous. It's wild, bro. And this guy's been arrested a lot of times. This guy's had a lot of problems with the law. Now, you can't just say it's who he's hanging around with, things like that. Again, I'm not trying to take away the responsibility from the fighters here, but it's an important conversation to be had about the effects of fighting. Vinny Magalhaes, I probably said that name wrong. I'm terrible with names, alright? He was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. Alright, he was arrested in Las Vegas this past Saturday for assault with a deadly weapon and now faces 3 felony charges. MMA Fighting confirmed the arrest and custody records from the court records that he is currently in custody at Clark County Detention Center. According to a report, he allegedly threatened 3 victims with a weapon during a domestic argument. No shots were fired, no injuries were reported. This is insane, guys. And it comes back. And I want to just look at this for a hot second. The effects of CTE on the brain. So, obviously, this is AI overview, so you can believe it, take it with a grain of salt. But I think everyone knows the effects of CTE, but if you didn't, I'm just going to kind of break it down. What kind of, applies to these fighters in their situation, alright? Confusion and poor judgment, I think, is a big factor. Poor judgment on, how to approach situations, Depression and hopelessness, alright? Dustin Poirier's been open about struggling with this. Emotional instability and mood swings. That's prevalent. What's that, daughter? You're not doing the household chores? Bang! Here's a potato. I'm also going to headbutt you now. Sudden aggressions and explosive outbursts. Impulsive actions. Thoughts of self-harm and suicide. Now, it turns out that apparently, according to Fight Society, okay, but not according to him, this is his speculation based on the reports that have been coming out, Anthony Smith tried to shoot himself. So that's also a sign, come on, you know what I mean? Slurred and unclear speech, mate. Hey, maybe I have CTE, police stammering and all sorts, mate. Fucking hell. But the question is, alright, how does this expose the UFC, or what does this mean for the UFC? And in my opinion, the UFC need to have more of a solid healthcare plan for these fighters once they leave the company. Because it's to my understanding, they don't have one. It's to my understanding, the UFC's healthcare plan is only in relation to in-fight injuries. Which you would think, alright, it's fair enough, Warrior. Why should the UFC have to cover everything all the time? Even when they're out of fight, when they're not fighting. I get that. But they should also be responsible, in my opinion, for providing healthcare for conditions that come because of fighting, like CTE. There should be some kind of therapy or treatment that the UFC should pay for with these guys getting CTE because it ruins their lives. Cannot sit here and act right, CTE doesn't have any factor on how what they're doing and how they're acting, because it does. What is that down to? It's down to fighting. Now you could say, Bromo, it's their choice. They want to fight. True, they do want to fight, but I would say that if the pay was a little better, they'd have to fight less. They would have to fight less. If you paid $50K to start. Because the base pay for UFC, right, is 12 for 12. If you up that to 50 for 50, that's solid. Most people could fight twice a year, maybe, once a year, if they win, and survive off of that, and they can focus all their time to training and training safely. But what it is these fight, and I'm not saying Anthony Smith on John Jones and Conor McGregor or by any means, but I'm on about lower end guys. They get CTE. And a big part of it is because they have to fight so much because the pay's so shit. If the pay was better, they'd have to fight less. And I know that's Bromo, that's just calling for inactive fighters, right? Not really. We have so many fighters on the roster. We could go with them fighting twice a year. Twice a year is fine. Because these fighters, it's these low-ranked fighters that are doing like 4 or 5 times per year because they're on 12 for 12, 15 for 15 contracts. And they have to fucking grind. They have to do all this work because after taxes, alright, after paying the managers, after paying the camps, you know, the flights, the accommodation, the taxes, all that shit, alright, they get fuck all. They get nothing, pretty much. So I think the UFC should really put in place a solid healthcare plan that gives fighters aftercare once they retire. Poirier struggle, like one of the biggest names, one of the most like fan favorite names, Poirier. He's retired, and the UFC have just gone, fuck it, you're on your own now, buddy. And he is struggling. And these guys with CTE, they're all struggling. They should have some sort of aftercare in place with a solid healthcare plan for when fighters retire. Or even when they don't retire, when they're just like showing signs of CTE. Alright, when they're just showing signs of CTE, or even they just get regular checkups. And the UFC should be able to look after these guys. They're earning billions and billions of dollars. You tell me that they can't put in place a solid care plan for fighters, so that, you know, they don't have to like try and deal with CTE by themselves when they retire. You know what I mean? Like, it's just basic shit. And it just shows that the UFC don't give a fuck about the fighters. Even people like Anthony Smith, who's been nothing but a company man this whole time. Alright, he's retired, and they basically just said, nothing to do with us now, kid. You're on your own. It's like, just put something in place, man. Like, even my company have a healthcare plan where I can like book appointments and they'll pay for it for me. Like, if I like dental shit, I can book a dentist appointment and my company will pay for it for me. Like, the UFC wouldn't do that. Like, they actually wouldn't do that. They actually, I bet they haven't paid for Tom Aspinall's private surgery, even though the injury happened in the cage. I guarantee the UFC have not paid for Tom Aspinall's eye surgery, even though it happened in the cage. And it's just like, fucking hell. Like, it's a big problem within these fighters. All these guys. You know, CTE. It's not good. And the UFC needs to do better with it. Increase the pay. And put in place a solid healthcare plan that looks after fighters once they retire. That's my opinion. Alright? Rather than just being like, oh, you know, we'll cover the cost of injuries in the cage. Alright? But once you're out the cage and you've got CTE, thanks to us, putting like, you know, well, it isn't thanks to the UFC. Like, these guys do choose to fight, but it's like, you should be like looking after the fighters that make the company. Like, if none of these fighters existed, you wouldn't have a company. And you're just like, yeah, fuck it, do whatever, you know, not our problem. It's ridiculous. In my opinion, I think the UFC need to do better. I don't know what you guys think. Alright, like and subscribe. My links are down below. Become a member, join the Discord. Until next time, I'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.